Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Secretary, just a couple of thoughts. I was very discouraged at the Helsinki summit when the president basically was offered a choice in some of the questions. Did he believe U.S. intel or did he believe Vladimir Putin's protestations that he had engaged in hacking of the election? And he basically said, my own people have made a great case to me. Vladimir Putin has made a great case to me. I don't see why Russia would have done this. He came back and corrected it the next day in the United States, but at the end he said, I believe my intel community, but there's a lot of people out there. It could have been someone else. And then this dragged on for a couple of days. You know where I live. You know I have a lot of constituents who used to be your employees at the CIA. People come up to me all the time in Virginia and say, I'm with the IC, and they are very demoralized by this. They're very demoralized that when standing next to Vladimir Putin, the president's words were to suggest that he trusted Vladimir Putin over them. There was the suggestion when President Trump said it was an incredible offer about Ambassador McFaul that he was also potentially willing to throw not just intel folks under the bus, but State Department diplomats under the bus. They live in Virginia, too. They feel the demoralization of your comments today that we're going to go to bat for current reformer. That's very, very helpful. But what I want to ask you about is our military and our military leadership. There was an article yesterday in the Washington Post. General Joseph F. Dunford, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as of Monday, Dunford still hadn't been briefed on Helsinki, even though it directly affects more than 1 million troops Dunford overseas. Do you know why there would have been no briefing of General Dunford about the discussions that took place at Helsinki?
Senator, you have to ask the Department of Defense or Chairman Dunford.
But you don't dispute that you have no knowledge that there was a briefing of General Dunford today about the Helsinki discussion, do you?
Senator, you just read me a piece from the Washington Post.
Yeah, but I'm asking your knowledge. Do you have any knowledge that the administration has shared discussions about U.S.-Russia military issues with the head of the United States Joint Chiefs of Staff?
I've actually spoken with Chairman Dunford about it. I was with him yesterday in a series of meetings, and we had a chance to have a conversation about it, yes.
Okay,
about our plan, absolutely.
Okay, so yesterday may have been the first time he was briefed about it. I want to ask about General.
It's possible, yes.
I was going to ask about General Votel, the information that Senator Shaheen mentioned earlier. He expressed wariness about working with Russia, and the Russian Defense Ministry. This is an interesting statement. They went after General Votel, the head of CENTCOM, who oversees, as you know, U.S. military operations in the Middle East, including Syria. Quote, with his statements, General Votel not only discredited the official position of his Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Are you aware what the official position is that is being referenced in that statement?
You'd have to speak with the Russian Ministry of Defense to know what it was he was referring to.
But you can understand why we're concerned. If it's being reported in Russian press as Secretary Flake and Senator Flake and Senator Shaheen said that they're talking about official positions that the President has outlined. As far as you know, General Votel's statements did not violate any official position in the United States, did they?
You seem to be giving a great deal of credit to the Russian Ministry of Defense.
For
truthfulness.
Let me ask you about General Votel.
I might not share that same.
Let me ask you about General Votel. As far as
I have great belief in his truthfulness.
So you do not believe that any of the statements that he's made, including those that I read, violate any official position in the United States, do you?
If you would, that's best approach to General Votel, the Department of Defense. I mean, we're now 3 orders removed. I'm sorry.
If I could introduce for the record, there's an interesting article in BuzzFeed News just recently today that just lists a whole series of headlines, and I think these are instructive, Mr. Chair. Trump's announcement that he will end U.S. Korea drills catches Pentagon off guard. Pentagon in Seoul is surprised by Trump pledge to halt military exercises. Pentagon caught off guard by Space Force announcement. Trump signals withdrawal very soon of U.S. troops from Syria, surprising Pentagon and State Department. Pentagon caught by surprise by Trump's travel ban, pushes for some Iraqis to get special consideration. U.S. Joint Chiefs blindsided by Trump's transgender ban. Northcom caught off guard as Trump orders troops to U.S.-Mexico border. If I could introduce this for the record, Mr. Chair.
Without objection.
I worry about an administration that would take the Putin position over our intel community. I worry about the administration that would suggest it might be a great deal to consider handing over a former diplomat for questioning. I worry about an administration that is catching the Pentagon off guard. that is not consulting with General Dunford or briefing him for a week after a summit of this importance to our military. Mr. Secretary, you're aware of the NDAA prohibition, the current prohibition on Russian and U.S. joint military operations, are you not?
I'm aware of the existence of that provision, yes.
The provision prohibits any use of funds, it's in the NDAA, any use of funds to support joint Russia and U.S. military operations, and it also gives the Secretary of Defense the ability to undertake a national security waiver if he thinks that that's the right idea. Does the administration accept the legality and binding nature of that provision of law?
That's all right. I think the DoD General Counsel would be the right person to ask about the intricacies of an NDAA provision that had to do with complex issues that span the gap between, I think, what you're getting between deconfliction and coordination. It's a complex undertaking. Not a waiver that the State Department has the authority, but right. More broadly, yes, this administration follows the law, okay. If that's the question.
So sitting here today, you're not aware of a legal concern that the administration has about this NDA provision, are you?
I'm not aware of one.
And you're not aware that the Secretary of Defense has issued any kind of a waiver to allow U.S.-Russia military joint operations, are you?
No, Senator.
With respect to North Korea, we were told by our expert witnesses, and I echo a little bit what Senator Cardin said, that a first test of their seriousness is will they disclose what they have. In your discussions with North Korea, have they reached a point yet where there has been any agreement made about them disclosing the extent of their nuclear infrastructure?
I'd prefer not to answer questions about the nature of our negotiations, other than to say that your proposition that a good first step is the disclosure of the range of their nuclear infrastructure capabilities, an initial declaration, so to speak, is something that's at the very forefront of what it is we think makes sense to get them to a point where we can verify their full denuclearization.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I'd like to put one other additional item in for the record, which is an article just recently written by the Saudi ambassador to the United States, Prince Khalid bin Salman, why Iran's malign behavior must be confronted, not appeased. And the thing that I think is interesting for us is he basically makes this argument and says that Saudi Arabia stands very willing to help the United States undertake all the actions that he suggests should be taken. I'm very concerned about this, too, but my time would not allow further questions on it, but I'd like to put it on the record.
Objection will be entered. Senator Brasso.